What's going on, y'all? It is 8:08 on a Monday night, which means it is time for another episode of Masked Up, a community health live stream. As per usual, I am your host, Andrew Defy, a.k.a. the Gorilla Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Hoodie God, a.k.a. Spittin' Quarantino, a.k.a. I wear my sunglasses at night because my eyes are as sensitive as my heart is, y'all. And as per always, we are here at ZFG HQ. Thanks to our partners at Protect Us for help making this happen. And I have got an exciting episode for you tonight, all based in community. We have special guest Dr Feldman stopping through, the director of USC Street Medicine Program. So we are super excited to have that conversation. And, for the first time in a long time, I've actually got a lot of good news to report on from the Rona front. So let's just start it off. Let's just get into the good news right now with the weekly Rona update. So this update comes to us from Michael Mago at the Sacramento Bee. With California's coronavirus infection and hospitalization numbers showing signs of rapid improvement from high winter peaks, state health officials on Monday morning lifted the regional stay-at-home order, which had been in place for most of the state since early December. The end of the order allows for wider business openings across 3 geographic regions that combine for 91% of California's population. That is the Bay Area, San Joaquin Valley, and Southern California. The California Department of Public Health in a news release announced that 4-week intensive care unit projections show ICU availability in all 3 regions above 15%, allowing the order to end effective immediately. As for the state's other 2 regions, Greater Sacramento already exited the stay-at-home order earlier this month due to improving projections for ICU availability, and the sparsely populated Northern California region had never fallen below 15% ICU availability since the system was introduced in early December, and it therefore never triggered the restrictions. Together, we changed our activities, knowing our short-term sacrifices would lead to longer-term gains, Dr. Tomas Aragon said in a prepared statement. COVID-19 is still here and still deadly, so our work is not over, but it's important to recognize our collective actions save lives, and we are turning a critical corner. Y'all, I want to applaud you for taking that action. The state also announced that the limited stay-at-home order, which instituted a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew on non-essential businesses and activities, expires with the lifting of the regional order. In practice, few jurisdictions had enforced this curfew. The CDPH news release says COVID-19 is far from over, but that there are positive signs that the virus is spreading at a slower rate across the state. The state's rolling 2-week average for new lab-confirmed cases has fallen from about 40,000 to about 30,000 in the past 11 days, with the test positivity rate crashing from 13.4 down to 9.4, according to state data updated Monday. The statewide total for patients hospitalized with confirmed COVID-19 has fallen from a peak of nearly 22,000 on January 6th to a little over 17,400 on Monday. ICU numbers are declining more slowly, but have trended consistently downward for about 2 weeks. On Monday, the ICU patient total fell below 4,400 for the first time since December 29th. Y'all, we are making a dent. We are trending in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Cha-cha say, yay, good news. Finally, right? And thanks to all of y'all for doing the work. And thanks to all of our frontline medical professionals who've been working so hard and so tirelessly on this issue, man. We really appreciate y'all. And let's keep going, y'all. Let's keep going. We can do this. We can beat this. So that's the weekly Rona report. It's good news for the first time in a long time. So, man, with that being said, let's get on to the latest health news. Yeah, the latest health news. We've got some really, really interesting stories coming up. Uh, the first one coming out of Rockefeller University. We talked to Dr. Nakasi last week, and we talked about how long immunity would last with the coronavirus. So let's see. You actually made me feel like we're making a difference. We are making a difference. We're doing it, y'all. And we're going to talk a little bit about immunity because Rockefeller University just released a new study. As the number of people who have fought off SARS-CoV-2 climbs even higher, the big question is, how long will their immunity to the novel coronavirus last? A new Rockefeller study offers an encouraging answer, suggesting that those who recover from COVID-19 are protected against the virus for at least 6 months and likely much longer. The findings, published in Nature, provide the strongest evidence yet that the immune system remembers the virus and remarkably continues to improve the quality of antibodies even after the infection has waned. Antibodies produced months after the infection showed increased ability to block SARS-CoV-2 as well as its mutated versions, such as the South African variant. Researchers found that these improved antibodies are produced by immune cells that have kept evolving, apparently due to a continued exposure to the remnants of the virus hidden in the gut tissue. Based on these findings, researchers suspect that when the recovered patient next encounters the virus, the response would be both faster and more effective, preventing reinfection. SARS-CoV-2 replicates in certain cells in the lungs, upper throat, and small intestines, and residual viral particles hiding within these tissues could be driving the evolution of antibodies. In 7 of the 14 individuals studied, tests showed the presence of SARS-CoV-2's genetic material and its proteins in the cells that line the intestines. The team plans to study more people to better understand what role the viral stowaways may play in both the progression of the disease and in the immunity. But this is looking like good news for our natural immunity to SARS-CoV-2 and the novel coronavirus. So, good news. Good news on the immunity front, y'all. Coming out of Rockefeller University. And the next piece of latest health news that we got is about one of my favorite topics in the whole world. It's actually about manifestation, y'all. Yeah. Oregon State University just put out this study that said if you believe you are capable of becoming the healthy, engaged person you want to be in old age, you are much more likely to experience that outcome. How we think about who we're going to be in old age is very predictive of exactly how we will be, said Shelby Turner, a doctoral student in OSU's College of Public Health and Human Sciences and co-author of the study. Previous studies on aging have found that how people thought about themselves at age 50 predicted a wide range of future health outcomes up to 40 years later. Cardiovascular events, memory, balance, will to live, hospitalizations, and even mortality. Previous research has shown that people who have positive views of aging at 50 live 7.5 years longer on average than people who don't, said Karen Hooker, co-author of the study and the Joanne Leonard Peterson Endowed Chair in Gerontology and Family Studies at OSU. Hooker and Turner's studies look specifically at the influence of 2 factors: self-efficacy associated with possible selves, meaning a person's perceived ability to become the person they want to be in the future, and optimism as a general personality trait. The researchers measured self-perception of aging by having respondents say how strongly they agreed or disagreed with statements such as, "Things keep getting worse when I get older," "I have as much pep as I had last year," and "as you get older, you are less useful." They measured optimism in a similar way, with respondents ranking the agreement with statements like, "In uncertain times, I usually expect the best." Kids as young as 4 already have negative stereotypes about old people, Hooker said. Then, of course, if you're lucky enough to live to old age, they eventually apply to you. Those stereotypes get reinforced every time an older adult forgets something and jokes, "Another senior moment." But the researchers say these thought patterns can do real harm. Your thought patterns can do harm, y'all. People need to realize that some of the negative health consequences in later life might not be biologically driven. The mind and the body are all interwoven, Hooker said. If you believe these bad things are going to happen, over time that can erode people's willingness or maybe even eventually their ability to engage in those health behaviors that are going to keep them as healthy as they can be. A way to mitigate those negative stereotypes about aging is to promote intergenerational relationships so younger people can see older adults enjoying happy, healthy lives. The more you're around older people, the more you realize that it's not all bad, Turner said. Older people can do some things better than young people do. Increasing opportunities for intergenerational relationships is one way that we can make people more optimistic about aging and therefore bring people a little more happiness as they age. So, we manifestation is real, y'all. The evidence just continues to come out. How you think about things, how you think about yourself. Your cells listen to what you say about you. Don't let me get too woo-woo here. We on the medical show, but this is science, y'all. This is science, because what we do here is it's called. It's called science, y'all. This is where we debunk some myths and address rumors and wild memes that people are passing around as medical advice nowadays. There's no shortage of that, I'm sure you know. And this one specifically wanted to address, one of the biggest ones out there. So there is if you've been involved in the vaccine discussion at all, you may have heard about a medical report that connects vaccines to autism in children. What you may not have heard is the story behind it. In 1998, a man named Andrew Wakefield and his colleagues published a now infamous paper promoting a non-existent connection between autism and the MMR, or measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. This paper was later retracted by the publisher, and in 2010, Wakefield was struck off the UK register for misconduct by the country's General Medical Council for what has been deemed fraudulent work. You hear me? The 1998 study is full of ethical, financial, and methodological impropriety. It was eventually found to have involved undisclosed conflicts of interest and to have subjected minors to unwarranted procedures and mischaracterized their samples. Many large epidemiological studies have found no difference in risk of developmental delays between children who receive the MMR vaccine and those who don't. So there's some facts. Y'all, again, we are here to have a conversation, especially around these vaccines. This isn't a show for the pro-vacciners or the anti-vacciners. This is a scientific conversation based in data and facts. So I just want to continue bringing the facts. If you've got some good facts for me that you think I should know about, feel free to email at themasseduplivestream@gmail.com and let me know. Let me know what's going on, because there's a lot of reasons that people support or don't support or have their skepticisms about the vaccine. And we're going to talk about one of the big ones right now in the racism crisis. So last week when I was on with Dr. Nakasi, we were talking, and I mentioned the Tuskegee Experiment in passing, and I realized that not a lot of people, this isn't something that we were taught in school. This is something that you kind of had to dig and do your own research to find out. So I mentioned the Tuskegee Experiment with Dr. Nakasi in passing last week. So I wanted to share this video to give some historical context for those who might not know. See, the racism crisis isn't new in America or its healthcare system. It's been here since the beginning. And in order to learn how to change it, we have to unlearn what we were always taught that it was. So here's a little bit of basic education, a little introduction to what the Tuskegee Experiment was that may help clarify why the Black community are right to be skeptical of the vaccine process and the healthcare system in general, because it is only through accountability that we can heal, y'all. So we're gonna do everything we can to hold ourselves accountable, and in that hold everyone else accountable, so we can heal, so we can grow. So I'm gonna show you this video right quick.
They were told they'd get treated for their bad blood. Instead, hundreds of poor Black men became participants unknowingly in a shocking and truly shameful chapter of American medical history. In 1932, the United States Public Health Service launched an unethical research project to examine the effects of untreated syphilis. The project was called the Tuskegee Study because it recruited 600 Black men living in Tuskegee, Alabama. Researchers told the men that they were being treated for bad blood, a term used locally to describe anything from fatigue to anemia. They promised the men free medical treatment if they participated. While 2/3 of the men in the study were confirmed to have syphilis, not one received proper treatment for the disease they had contracted.
So this was a study in which there was no consent on the part of those who were being studied, also deception on the part of the U.S. government.
When penicillin became the recommended treatment for syphilis in the 1940s, Tuskegee researchers scandalously withheld the drug from the men in the study so that they could continue to chart the course of the disease when untreated. Many patients experienced damage to their vital organs and nervous systems. And for some, the lack of treatment led to death.
The great shame of the study is that the men thought that they were being treated. Treatment was withheld from them, even after it was very clear what kind of medical treatment would cure them of syphilis.
In 1972, an Associated Press article exposed the Tuskegee study after one of the participants brought the story to a civil rights attorney. Only then, after 40 years, was the study brought to an end. The case was settled out of court for $10 million.
This long history of medical experimentation on African Americans creates a sense of distrust, a distrust of doctors and physicians, a distrust of medical care.
In 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized to the victims of the study. The president's apology was a welcome first step, but we still have a long way to go before the legacy of mistrust of science within the Black community is fully overcome.
So there it is, y'all. There's a little information. Some of y'all just had your minds blown because you didn't know about Tuskegee before. I was talking to a good friend of mine a few minutes before the show who was completely unaware about what they were doing in Tuskegee, and it really sheds a light on some of the hesitancy and just the history of racism in America and the healthcare system. So we here at this show are going to continue shining a light on that because those are the conversations that we have to create change, y'all. So appreciate everybody doing their part. And now it is time for one of my favorite segments of this show. I have an amazing partner in this. It's not just me. I'm not a medical professional. I am a poet laureate. I'm a rapper. I do a lot of things, but medical professionalism is not one of them. So I have a partner named Neda Ashtari. She's a doctor in training, and she is always putting me up on game on all of these really cool medical things and medical studies that I didn't know about. And this is a segment we like to call Neda Found This. So we have an illustrious guest coming in. We have Brett Feldman joining us, who's a director of street medicine over at USC. And so we wanted to have a little bit of context for what's going on. So Netta found this. This is a study from the Los Angeles Times about unhoused deaths in Los Angeles County. A record number of our unhoused family are dying across Los Angeles County. There were 918 in 2018 alone. Deaths jumped 76% from 2014 to 2018, far outpacing the growth of the homeless population. Health officials and experts have not pinpointed a single cause for the sharp increase in deaths, but they say rising substance abuse may contribute alongside growth in the number of people who are chronically unsheltered. People are living longer on the streets with serious physical and behavioral health issues, they say. Nearly 53,000 people were unhoused in LA County in 2018. That's an increase of about 39% since 2014. The majority were not living in shelters. The unhoused population has also grown nationwide, but there is no national count of homeless deaths. The Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner Coroner considers someone homeless if that person doesn't have an established residence or if the body was found in an encampment, shelter, or other location that suggests homelessness. Based on that criteria, the coroner reported 3,612 deaths of homeless people in LA County from 2014 to 2018. A detailed look at the numbers reveals a complex picture of where and how the unhoused are dying. 1/3 died in hospitals, and even more died outside in places such as sidewalks, alleyways, parking lots, riverbeds, and on freeway on-ramps. Male deaths outnumbered female deaths, but the percentage of homeless women who died increased faster than that of men. And although Black people make up fewer than 1/10 of the county's population, they accounted for nearly a quarter of the homeless deaths. We need to take action now, said Reverend Andy Bales, CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, a homeless shelter on LA's Skid Row. Otherwise, next year, it's going to be 1,000. Y'all, such a serious situation all over California. How do we take care of our unhoused family? How do we support them? How do we bring them medicine and make sure they get the health care that they need? And that's precisely why we are bringing Brett Feldman on to have this conversation tonight. Y'all, give it up for Brett Feldman. How's it going?
It's going great. Great picture.
So it's a little old. We were cracking jokes.
I was a much younger man back then.
So you are the director of street medicine at the Keck School of Medicine in USC. You serve as the vice chair of the Street Medicine Institute. You've provided outreach medicine for the unhoused since 2007, founded programs across the United States. Also, y'all, his work has been featured in the Washington Post, PBS, CNN, Telemundo, and now he's finally worked his way up to getting on to Masked Up with all of us. Let's start at square one. What is street medicine?
Yeah, so street medicine basically recognizes that people experiencing homelessness, especially the unsheltered, just can't access healthcare the way other people do. They're understandably preoccupied with basic things of survival, where their next meal is coming from, where they're going to sleep tonight, if they're going to be safe doing those things. So they can't possibly begin to think about things like their healthcare. So in response, we, in a very assertive way, go to the people sleeping under the bridges, behind the dumpsters, in the riverbeds, all those places you mentioned where we find that they've died, with the goal of first delivering a tender love, and then the same quality healthcare on the street that you would expect in a brick and mortar clinic.
So how do you get into street medicine? Like, what's What's your path into street medicine versus being in the traditional brick and mortar?
Well, when I started in 2007, there really wasn't a path. Basically, how I started, we had a shelter-based clinic. We had 2 shelter-based clinics actually, and started noticing that when the people left the shelter, as much as we would love to believe that it's because they found a job and housing, we knew that that wasn't the case. So we decided to go look for them on the streets to continue the same care that we started in the shelter. And we found 3 really important things. The first one is that they were really sick, much sicker than the people that we were meeting in the shelters. The second thing that we found was that it wasn't, kind of like I mentioned before, it wasn't that they didn't want to come into brick and mortar medicine, is that they actually couldn't come in for some reasons that are kind of intuitive to think about, but also things like they can't leave their tent behind because nobody's there to watch it and they'll lose everything that they own. And then the third thing that we found is that they're really a very beautiful people, and that.
Oh, where'd he go? We lost him. We lost the doc. We're going to work to get him back in. I'm sure he's logging back in right now. The technology be like that sometimes, y'all. In the meantime, I will introduce you a little bit to him in the way that I can. You know, I spend a lot of time watching and studying a lot about what he's been doing over the last few years since 2007. So I'm gonna play this video, and hopefully we can get Mr. Feldman back on with us. Oh, hold on. Here we go. There he is. He's back. So I'll put a pause on this.
All right. I don't know what happened.
Technology happens sometimes.
So anyway, the third thing was that we found that they were actually very beautiful people, and that it was an honor that they allowed us to take care of them. So, you know, I think I found myself under those bridges looking for them and wanted to stay.
So how has COVID shifted, you know, the care of our unhoused fam? How are you all adapting under new circumstances to continue that work?
So for the most part, it's gone unchanged. You know, those deaths that you put up there, the number 1 cause of death in LA anyway is substance use disorder, but number 2 is heart disease. And the only published study on unsheltered homeless deaths had number 1 heart disease, number 2 cancer. So you know, they're dying of things that we typically would treat with primary care and preventative medicine. But they don't have access to a system that excludes them. So even without COVID, we had to provide them with primary care and preventative medicine. The biggest difference with COVID, similar to the name of your show, is the masks. The relationships that we build with them are the most important thing. It's very common for us to hug our patients, I purposefully touch my patients when I'm just listening to their heart. I might put my hand on their shoulder. A lot of them have not been touched in any way other than in anger for a long time. So to build that same relationship far from them, and they can only see my eyes, that's been the hardest part.
That makes so much sense. You know, those little things that you don't think about, that human touch, man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you said, cancer, heart disease, what are the biggest medical challenges facing our unhoused family in general? And are there trends that you're kind of seeing on the street that have like kind of picked up since you started? What are your insights that we should know?
Yeah. So in general, it's kind of what I mentioned that I think would be surprising to people, that cancer and heart disease are 2 of the top killers. of course, actually this year in LA for the first time, drug use has surpassed heart disease. And then the third one in LA is traffic accidents. So we just saw a patient this morning who is confined to a wheelchair and was hit by a car 3 times in the last year.
Wow.
So it's this like environmental injustice that we don't talk about too much. So they have these things that they get much earlier, and then they don't have access to get treatment for them. And we don't totally understand the effects of chronically being outside, the like little t trauma that we talk about, where every day feeling like you're unsafe and something bad's going to happen to you. What's that do to us over 10 or 20 years?
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, the little t trauma turns into the big T PTSD, man. So what is the process when you're like, yo, I want to do street medicine. I'm going to start a program. What's the process like to start and sustain a street medicine program?
It's really hard. Street medicine is still a new field. In fact, it's not officially recognized by CMS, who kind of oversees what's considered traditional medicine. For example, they don't recognize the streets as a place of service. So when we're trying to get our patients care, we might be delivering care that is recognized, but because of the place where we're delivering it, it's not seen as legitimate care. So in a way, we kind of share in some of the suffering that our patients do and are involved in the same hustle. But all that to answer your question is you learn skills that you don't learn in medical school or PA school or nursing school, about community organizing, how to build support from everywhere. It stretches everything that we touch, from the IT department to risk management and compliance. Everybody has to be on board.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. That's a big weight to try and shift that whole paradigm and that whole perspective into like, no, this is a place of practice. In fact, it might be a place of the most impactful practice. Man. So you heard the stats about deaths among the unhoused surging in Los Angeles. That study was from 2014 to 2018. So we kind of where that study dropped off. Can you pick up and tell us, do you feel like that trend is continuing? Do you think it's slowing down? What's it currently looking like in Los Angeles County?
It has continued. Reverend Bales gave that grim warning that if it continues, we'll pass 1,000. We passed 1,000. In 2019, it was 1,200. And in September of 2020, we don't have the numbers for all of 2020 yet, but in September in 2020, it was almost 1,000 already.
Wow.
So we have more than surpassed that.
So how do we in California, how do we support street medicine in our communities? How do we get behind you? How do we rally to let everyone know that this is what we want in our communities? I'm seeing a lot of comments drop in right now that are thank you for your compassion. There are a lot of us out here who want to see these services extended to our unhoused family. How do we help you?
Well, I mean, I guess the first thing is that it's not about street medicine as much as it is about the people that we serve and what their needs are. So, of course, there's our exclusion and therefore their exclusion from the healthcare system. But really, it's flipping. The solution to homelessness is not going to be found with a program. The solution is flipping that, not in my backyard. That we don't want those people in my backyard, to we don't want homelessness in my backyard. So it's divorcing the person from the essentially disease of homelessness, loving the person and hating the disease. So we have to view them already as our neighbors. And we have to, one of the things we talk about is solidarity. And that's become a very popular term. There's solidarity statements and gestures of solidarity. In street medicine, we talk about authentic solidarity, which we define as being willing to share in the suffering of the people that we serve with love. So what that looks like for us, we'll never know what it's like to be homeless. At least, some of the people I work with do, but I don't. So I find small ways to lessen their suffering. So that might be riding the bus with them and sitting with them as a friend while they're getting verbally and emotionally harassed by the people sitting with them. It might be me standing in front of my colleagues after the treatment plan has failed 6 times and them saying, Brett, there's all these other people that need your help. Just give up on them. And I have to say, no, we're trying a 7th time and there'll probably be an 8th time. But we all have our own ways of doing that, no matter whatever our lot is in our communities. We have our ways of sharing that.
And, we got to talk briefly before we did the show, before the show started about, I'm out here in Sacramento and there's some folks working to start some street medicine up here in Sacramento. And we've got some incredible medical professionals working with MH First out here as well. So you are starting to see a lot of that. I just really, Brett, I really appreciate your heart. Any interview with the doctor that starts out with, we have to love people. That's my kind of doctor. That's the doctor I want working with me. Just really appreciate that. And I think it does a lot for, because we look at the medical field as this very cold, it's very white walled, very, everything's sterilized, right? And I think you being able to come on and have a conversation that's really rooted in love is so beautiful and just powerful. So I do have one more question for you, because I myself am an expert joy hunter who stays hunting the joy. Where's your joy coming from these days?
The same place it always has, from the people that we serve. Sometimes people think of the suffering as a bad thing, but that's where my joy comes from, is being with them through everything good that happens to them and everything bad that happens to them. Just that accompaniment and that presence.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any last words you want to give to the people? Anything else you want to say to the half of the internet that is watching right now, tuned in all around California?
No, nothing else. Just thank you for having me on. We make a good team because I can't rap.
Hey, we new album coming 2021. I'm going to rap about Brett's work in the field. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be all love, man. We really appreciate having you on the show, and keep up the good work. It's all love over here. You got big supporters and big fans out here.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bless. Y'all, what an inspiring person to have on the show and be able to talk to and be able to get deep with. Man, it's another beautiful week here at the show. And look, we even did it without we did it without too much technical difficulty this time, y'all. We getting better at this. Crystal said, I think Andrew and Brett are on the same journey. Love. All the talk about loving, treat the disease, love the person. Yeah. I'm saying, like, me and Brett are going to be besties, and we're going to work out this album. I'm telling you right now, look for it. Billboard, be ready. You know what I mean? Someone holler at Cardi B. Tell her we need her for a verse, y'all. So with that being said, man, my name is Andrew Defy, and this has been Masked Up. We here every Monday night, 8:08 p.m., broadcasting on all your favorite channels. If any medical practitioners, medical pages want to get in touch, holler at us at the Masked Up live stream at gmail.com. And we'd love to touch base. I love to get feedback on the show and, just continue building this community health thing. So Thank y'all for joining us. See you next week.